All right, phase 2, highlighting and annotating. Phase 2 is the processing. We're highlighting and annotating the key details that support the main idea. Let's start on page 425 with the visual summary. Minerals and ores are non-renewable natural resources that should be conserved. Minerals include gold, silver, iron, and other metals. Okay, so we want to highlight anything that talks about minerals and ores being non-renewable, that they should be conserved, and that they often are metals. So there's 3 important things right there. Minerals and ores non-renewable, conserved, metals. Look for those 3 things in your notes and highlight them. Okay, next part. Natural resources are found in different locations around the world. They are transported to areas that need them. Okay, so resources being found in different places, something about their locations, and then the fact that they get transported. So people don't necessarily have to live by the resources anymore like we used to hundreds of years ago. Okay? Found in locations around the world, they get transported. Those are the 2 things you want to look for here to highlight. Okay, now this section, to conserve resources, practice the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Plastics are made from petroleum. They can be used in many different products. Okay, so the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, that's a big one. Reduce, reuse, recycle is a huge one, obviously. Let's see, plastics from petroleum, that's important because petroleum is also oil and gasoline for cars. So petroleum is like a very important resource, but it's also non-renewable. So that's constantly a problem. Not only do we use it for oil and gasoline and burning to heat homes and things like that, we're also using it for plastic. And look around at how much stuff we have that's plastic. There's a lot of plastic. Okay, and that's what we just talked about was the many different products. So the 2 things you're looking for here, the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, highlight stuff that says those. Plastics, petroleum, many different products. Okay, flipping back through the book, what kind of stuff talked about those? So minerals and ores being non-renewable, conserving, and metals. Non-renewable, conserving, metals. Okay, well, that whole first section was minerals and ores. I'm sure they talked about how they are non-renewable. A lot of it was talking about how there's a lot of different metals. In fact, I remember looking at this little table here and talking about how many of the minerals are basically either a crystal structure or they're metals. And then, let's see, conserving. What did they talk about conserving? They talked about them being valuable, that we have to refine them, they have different uses. Refining ores is often a complex and expensive process. So that makes us infer or guess that we need to conserve the metals and conserve these resources so that we don't spend a lot of money, a lot of time, or a lot of energy in the form of petroleum and oil and gas and coal and other things processing these. Okay, back to the visual summary. Different locations and transporting them. So remember there was this entire section where the resources are, talking about where are major resources around the world, talking about how in the past people settled near the areas of the resources, but nowadays we use a little bit of energy to transport, right? So they talk about transport tankers and that they ship products these distances, but that costs money and energy. You have to use some fuel to power the big giant ships that carry the fuel to other parts of the world. Okay, back to the visual summary. Conserving, recycling, the 3 R's, and plastics. Okay, so recycling and conservation was these 2 pages. There was an entire section on the 3 R's. And then new products from old talked a lot about plastic, because plastic is a good example of something that you can recycle and you can reuse. You could take old plastic bottles, for example, chop them and shred them all up, turn them into a fine fiber or thread, and then you can use that thread to weave fabrics like polyester clothing or backpacks. Okay, so now you should have some things highlighted for the visual summary. Next, let's use the main idea in our own brain. Many of Earth's resources cannot be easily replaced. Once they are gone forever. People should use these resources responsibly and wisely. So to me, that sounds like anything in our notes that talks about resources being non-renewable, anything that talks about the 3 R's, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. That's all doing responsible, wise resource use. Okay, so anything about materials being non-renewable, anything about how expensive or how timely or how complex it is to get those materials, anything about how we have to conserve as much as we can so we're not wasting it transporting around the world, how we can recycle materials and use them over again for different purposes because we don't want things to show up in landfills, how the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, help us, and then how we can get new products from the old, especially with plastics. Okay, once you have those things highlighted, now you have a general idea of what to put in your paragraph. So I'll get the e-binder going with some either bullet points or key questions, and you can use the highlights and the annotates to write your summary paragraph. The things that are highlighted and annotated are now your key details, and those support the main idea. All right, good luck, persevere, have a growth mindset, and roar, Wildcats.